Welcome to the Real Estate Investing School podcast. I'm your host, Joe Jensen. Our guest today is Ava Jurgens. She started real estate investing company at 15 years old somehow with her now fiance, Ben. And they were able to acquire almost $1 million in residential real estate before she even graduated high school. That's quite the introduction, Ava. Welcome to the show. So I'm sure, we want to hear your story, and everybody's probably wondering, like, how's that even possible to buy real estate at 15, 16, anything under 18 years old? Like, don't you have to be a little older? And also, like, congratulations. That's so cool to have such a jump start on your investing career. So I don't know, tell us a little bit, like, where you live, who you are, what your story is, and how you even got introduced to real estate at such a young age.
Yeah, so I live like right outside of Milwaukee in Wisconsin. And I guess like just to segue into how I got into real estate, basically the short story is I was in history class and we were learning about a guy named Andrew Carnegie.
Yeah.
And then ever since we kind of like learned about him, I just got really interested in like business, and I just like was so inspired by the lesson. I wanted to do something great, just kind of like he did. Like he had such a big impact. So then that day I like searched up something really dumb on the internet. I was like, books to make you successful, or just something really dumb like that. And then I found the book, like the first one that came up was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So since I was 15 at the time, I like forced my sister to drive me to Target after school, got the book. And then when I came home, my dad was at the like top of the stairs wearing a mask. And it turned out like he had COVID. And basically we all got quarantined. And so I had all the time in the world to read this book. And I read it in like a sitting. And
Wow.
Basically that's kind of how I got introduced into real estate. And then I just like kept on reading, all the books, listening to all the podcasts. And then eventually, working up the courage to go to the local RIA. Still had to get dropped off by my parents because I didn't have my license. But yeah, that's kind of how like I got into real estate.
That's crazy. So how old are you right now?
I just turned 18 a couple weeks ago.
So you just turned 18, and at 15 is when is that when you first got exposed to it? Like when you went and bought Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or were you 15 or 14?
15, yes.
15. That's awesome. Yeah, that book has inspired a lot of people to kind of just see the vision of like, oh, wow, like I can build a life of freedom, and real estate is a really, really accessible way for people to do that. And I think you've kind of proved that it's like, if a teenager can do it, it's like, what's everybody else's excuses? But so you read the book, you start listening to podcasts and going to real estate investing group. What was your response when you showed up to some of these groups?
Yeah, people would ask me like, what are you doing here? Like they just didn't think I was actually part of like the group, or they're like, oh, like, are you supposed to be here? And just stuff like that. Or it's like, is your parents here somewhere?
Yeah.
But at first, like the first like couple meetings, people are like, who is this girl? But after a while, like I just started, I'm like naturally, I guess, an introvert, but I just like at these events, I hated them because I forced myself to be an extrovert. But then like once I got to know everyone, it was great. And like the people you meet at the RIA or just any sort of real estate investing group, like those relationships are gold, especially like when you're just trying to get an investment property.
That's really cool. How'd your parents feel about it? Were they like thinking you're crazy and this is really odd, or are they just like all about it and like, yeah, this is what we do, like just go chase your dreams? Like, what was your parents' reaction to everything?
What's up, guys? Thanks so much for tuning into the show. I have an announcement. In just a few weeks, we are hosting a live event called the Cashflow Conference. This is April 29th. This is an in-person event where you can come and learn from expert real estate investors and how to get to the next level in your real estate investing career. So you're going to be able to network with other individuals. We'll have about 300 people just like you all across the board, beginners, intermediate, advanced, and come together to network and to get better at investing in real estate. We'd love to see you there. There's still time to snag a ticket. Click on the link in the show notes and enjoy the show.
Well, I guess so. My parents' reaction, it all kind of started with after I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I like finally worked up the courage to tell like my mom, who's like a teacher, that I didn't want to go to college because I had this big real estate plan. And she was like, And she was very upset. We'll just say that.
Mm.
So I was like, well, basically, instead of just talking, I'm just going to show her. So I was like, okay, fine. If I can prove to you that I can do this and like acquire stuff before I even graduate, like, can I not go to college? And she was like, yeah, okay. So basically, that's kind of how I introduced them to the idea. And my parents, like, I don't know if they actually doubted me or not. I was too distracted by trying to get the properties, but they always like are very like supportive and believed in me. So
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. So you started studying it, you're learning kind of the ins and outs. You probably learned how to like do some due diligence, figure out if a property's, going to be a nightmare or not, how to run some numbers to see if it'll match any sort of like criteria for you to buy. How did you, well, I guess a couple questions. What was your criteria? How did you know if you should buy something or not? And then the second question is like, actually, how did you take down your first deal?
yeah. So, okay. How I actually like analyze deals was basically I, with my RIA and like just people in that like any kind of networking group or just own properties in the area. Cause my first investment property was in like the greater Milwaukee area. And that's where everyone like owned. And basically what I did is I just like made a table and then asked everyone like what their average expenses was and then did like online research. And that's how I kind of came up with my baseline numbers. So then when I actually started like cold calling and doing direct mail and then like or looking on the MLS for properties, I would analyze them in the Bigger Pockets calculator with these numbers. And that's kind of how I just did my like initial analysis and figured out like the cash on cash return and the ROI and stuff.
That's awesome. So how many properties do you have right now then?
All right. So right now I have a couple units in the greater Milwaukee area, and then I also have a short-term rental in Tennessee.
Okay. So the Milwaukee ones are long-term then,
Mm-hmm.
just like normal rentals. And so how do you hold these? Like, can someone buy real estate at 16 years old, or they have to have an 18-year-old or plus, like an official adult on the deed, or like, how does that work?
Yeah, so you can't obtain a loan when you're not like above 18. So you have to get creative. You can do co-signing, you can have
Mm-hmm.
it in an LLC, but again, like with the LLC, if you're not 18, you can't be like the owner of it or the member. So you'd have to have like your parents or someone else do that, like a trusted adult. And then you can also just have like a trusted adult on the title.
Gotcha. So can you actually be on title or be on the LLC even at all as like a sub member at anything, or you can't be on it at all because you're under 18?
Yeah, you can't be any kind of member for like an LLC until you're 18 and same for title. But you might be able to co-sign for sure with, I know you can co-sign if you're younger than 18, but like, again, like you have to have someone over 18 on title.
Gotcha. So how did you structure it then? So are you not actually on title of some of these? You just kind of put the deals together and brought in some partners. It sounds like your now fiance was a big part of it. How did you
Mm-hmm.
structure your very first one? Like, how did you find, let's just do the whole story of that. Like, how did you
Mm-hmm.
even find it? How did you structure the purchase to make sure that you had like connection to it? Like, how did that all go down? Yours is such a unique situation. Most people don't even
Mm-hmm.
have to worry about like, oh, I'm not an adult. You know what I mean? That's
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Okay, I guess we can start. So basically for finding the deal, I basically looked on the MLS and then for 3 months straight, I did direct mail and then cold calling. I actually got this in the summer. So I was like on summer break and I had like pretty much all day to market. So me and Ben would cold call for hours. We do direct mail for hours because we did it like all ourselves. But so that's, and it took 3 months of marketing for like us to actually get that one cold call that said yes and get the property that we now have, which is a duplex.
So
And
hold
then
on, I want to slow you down a little bit there. So you guys, so when you're on the MLS, are you just on Zillow, or do you have an agent giving you like leads, or how are you looking at MLS properties?
So funny enough, I like met this agent like before I even went to the RIA, and that's the agent we ended up using, and we just signed up
Cool.
on the MLS with them.
Gotcha. So they helped you get access to be able to see everything. And so then you're just reaching out, you're writing, like typing out your own, printing out your own letters, just hand mailing them, cold calling these people. You just using some sort of skip trace technology to find their phone numbers.
So I didn't even know skip tracers were a thing. So I literally went on like Assessor, and I would just skip trace them all by myself and then use like a free like app that probably isn't even legal to get their phone numbers.
Nice. You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
just figure out a way how to get people's numbers. So then you're calling these people, And you're looking for some specific number of a deal that will actually work for you guys. And so it's like one after another, you're just calling for months and then you finally find a deal. What about this deal made it make sense where you're like, hey, this one could work?
Well, the numbers were really good. I can tell you the numbers now. So, what we analyzed it to be ended up being like really accurate to what it actually is. So, the rents, it's a duplex, so it's 2 units. The rents add up to about $2,100, and then expenses, so like mortgage, taxes, and then in our certain like city, you only have to pay water, and the tenants pay all the other utilities. And so all the expenses were around $1,500. So we have $600 in cash flow a month.
That's awesome. And so you find the property and then you put an offer in with the agent that you met at the real estate investing meetup group. They help you tie it down. Whose name is this going under? And then how did you structure the loan, or did you buy it cash?
Yeah, so I can tell you about the financing, but just really quickly. So this deal, it was off market, but we still used an agent to like help us with the closing because like I had no idea what I was doing there.
Sure.
But we had my parents go on the loan. But basically for like, I guess the deal, how we kind of worked it out was just imagine like you have the down payment, your closing costs, and then any repair costs. We added that all up and it was around like $42,000. And then we split that in half. So it was $21,000 each. So my parents put up $21,000 and then me and Ben put up $21,000. And the whole 3 months that we were like cold calling and doing the direct mail, we were also doing this side hustle called couch flipping. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but
No,
you
what's
basically,
that?
yeah. So basically you buy couches on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace for super cheap. You clean them up and then you sell them for higher, like on the same platforms. And we were getting like $500 an hour doing this thing. I mean, of course, it's subjective to like when a good couch comes on like the market, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But so it's not really on your own time. But like we had 3 months to build up all this money, like making like $500 an hour. So that's how we were able to come up with our end. And then also Ben had his like lawn care. So that really helped out.
That's cool. So how old's Ben at this time? You know, you're 15. How's he?
We're 12 days apart. So he
Okay.
is, yeah, like
He
his
was
birthday's
15.
12 days before
Yeah.
and he's 15 as well.
Okay, so you guys are just hustling, just selling stuff online, buying stuff, fixing it up, making a little money there, doing some lawn work, just whatever
Yeah.
it takes. And you guys are able to save up 20 grand between the two of you doing
Yeah.
that. That's awesome.
I know. Like, honestly, it was so much money to me and it still is. Like, I'm just like amazed.
That's so cool. And so then you went half and half with your parents and did the deal with them. And then that's so cool. So then you lock it down. I'm sure at this point your parents are like, oh man, she's serious. Like
Yeah.
she actually made this happen. That's crazy. But it sounds like they're super supportive and stoked for you as well.
Yeah, I have a really supportive family. So
That's way cool. Awesome. So you guys tie down this duplex, you guys get it fixed up, you put renters in there. Does it all just kind of work out textbook, or were there any like big roadblocks or like fall throughs, like nightmares to get it all stabilized and running?
Yeah, I mean, so overall, like everything went well for closing and stuff. And then I guess the only like rock like in the road was when me and Ben tried to be property managers, just because we got our first deal. We were 16 when we finally closed. And oh my God, I can tell you a story if you want.
Yeah,
It's
let's
really
hear
funny.
it.
So we were property managers for 2 weeks and then we were done. We hired out. But
You're like, okay.
basically, so the first encounter we ever had was we were going in, we inherited tenants, but we were going to renew their leases. So we went in and the day of, like, I remember putting on makeup, wearing a suit, and like trying to look super old
You're
and
like,
professional.
Stand tall.
Yeah, and my I wasn't fooling anyone. I still looked so young, but like I remember walking up to the door to like renew this lease. My hands were so sweaty. But basically, Ben, like he looked like he was 25 because he had a full-grown beard. Like, but yeah, so he actually looked a lot older, but I did not. But me and Ben and the two tenants, we were just sitting at the table, and I was going through this lease, and then I get to the rules and expectations part, and I'm just rushing through this thing because I'm so nervous, and I just want to get this over with. And I basically come to the rule where I'm like, okay, there's no smoking in the property. And then all of a sudden, my eyes dart to the ashtray on the table, and then back to them, and then the ashtray. And it was just the most awkward moment of my life. And they did not sign the lease. They're not our tenants anymore. So
Really?
that is the end of the story.
So was
Yes.
that them saying, like, you guys actually like butted heads on the smoking issue, and you're like they're like, we're not going to sign because of that, or was it like other issues?
It was just like they weren't willing to just, I mean, I don't expect them to like quit smoking, just do it outside, but like there were just so many red flags when it came to these tenants. So it was for the best, but we did butt heads.
And you kind of stuck to your guns. Were you, and like, because I could see like me, just because sometimes I just want things to like flow. I'm like, dude, there's already a tenant in there. I don't want to mess with it. It's already a smokehouse. Like, whatever, I'll erase that one. Just stay, But you kind of stuck to your guns. Were like, no, that doesn't fit my agenda. Like, you got to follow the rules or you're gone. Like, you actually stuck to your guns on that.
Yeah, I did.
That's cool. That's crazy. So then how long did it take you to find a new tenant after they decided? And did they leave peacefully and cleanly?
No, they did not. They did not. But basically by that time, literally a day after I hired a property manager, I'm like, I'm not doing this.
Gotcha,
so
cool.
They handled getting the new tenants. But yeah, we have tenants in there now.
That's awesome. There's still some margin there to pay for the property manager and still make some money.
Yeah, there is.
That's so cool. I love that. So you guys get this thing up and running, and you got the loan with the help of co-signing with your folks who partnered on the deal. So you do actually like split equity and commission or cash flow and stuff with them.
Yeah, it's 50-50. And also to mention, when I did analyze the deal, I included property management just
Smart.
to like, in case, because I knew I didn't want to do it forever if I did do
Yeah.
it. Clearly I didn't last very long, but yeah, but we did split it 50-50, all the profit. So when I say $600 cash flow in total, we split it. So 300.
Which is an awesome deal for your parents, because they didn't even have to bring. Normally, when we do like 50-50 deals, it's like they're bringing all the money. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like they only brought half the money. You did all the work. But that's the way. I mean, you're 15. You got to start. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I think, and that's what I always tell people. People are always like, "Well, how do I structure a partner deal?" It's like, well, do whatever makes sense to the partners in your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's going to be 60-40. Sometimes it's going to be 80-20. Like, who knows? Like, if it makes sense to you and to the people everybody's bringing enough value to the table, then it's cool, because you couldn't have done it without them. Like, it just wouldn't have worked, because you couldn't even go get a loan for yourself. You know what I mean? And they couldn't have done it without you, because they weren't studying real estate. They didn't know it. They didn't spend 3 months finding it, tying it down, doing all of the legwork. So they never would. They could have done it theoretically, but they never would have.
They wouldn't have
without you.
Yeah.
And you couldn't have done it without them. So it's like everybody's bringing value to the table, and that's a beautiful relationship right there. And the fact that half of your parents isn't bad,
Mm-hmm.
So that's super cool. I like that you ran the numbers with property management in mind, because a lot of times we're trying to like cut corners, and we really want to see a high return, so we cut out the property management. Like, say, even if you do planning on doing it yourself, you don't want to do it forever. You want the numbers to run, that if you do start to delegate out, it still is like a self-sustaining asset. So that's so cool. I love this. Like, it's still in my mind. I'm just like, and I'm sure you get this all the time. You've done these interviews, you met with people, and like, it's like, what in the world is going on in a 15-year-old girl's mind to be like, one, that I want to do this, that I'm excited about it, and then you actually take the time and effort to learn it and do it. Like, is that kind of in your blood? You have like brothers and sisters that are out tackling big stuff, or is this like you're an oddity? You said your mom was a school teacher. I don't know what your dad is. Like, how does this fit into your worldview and the people around you?
You know how like people always say you're like the people you surround yourself with?
Sure.
I feel like, I mean, like I don't really know, because I've always been surrounded by like, I haven't been surrounded by like, millionaires or anything. I've just been surrounded by like your average people, I guess. So like, I honestly don't know, but I think it's because like I have ADHD, and I think that just has a huge part to play in it. Like, I'm just weird sometimes. Like, I wake up 3:15 every single day, and I did that.
3:15.
I know. I don't know why. Like, I just do it. And basically before school, like I'd wake up at 3:15 and I just study real estate. Like, I would read the books. I bought a course by Robert Kiyosaki. I did that. And like, I just wanted to get this so bad. Like, nothing could stop me. Like, I was a force to be reckoned with when I was trying to get this first property. But I just knew like, and I kept in mind, like, if I do this, I will always be the girl who like started a real estate investing company when she was 15 and actually did it.
Yeah.
And like, I knew it would open me up to so many more opportunities, like, throughout the course of my life. So, like, I have to do this now. And, like, I felt a lot of pressure, even though technically I didn't have to do it. Like, I had to do it.
That's really cool. I actually love that. And I'm similar in a way where it's like, when it's harder, it almost makes it cooler. You know, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, like I used to do door-to-door sales, which was like miserable. But it's
Ugh.
like some of my favorite days is when it was like pouring rain or freezing or like crazy things going on. It's like most people are gonna bow out. I was like, dude,
Mm-hmm.
if I show up now, it's like it just means that much more than on an easy situation, you know? So it's kind of like what you're saying, like, dude, if I lock this thing down at 15 or 16 years old,
Mm-hmm.
like instead of just waiting, it's like, what a story. Like, and it's
Yeah.
true. It's doing, I mean, look, you've been on podcasts, you're doing all these things. It's like, you know, the average person just buying a duplex isn't going to get that kind of recognition.
Exactly.
But the fact that you did it at such a young age, which really is just inspiring, you know, it's like, it's just so cool. And that's cool that you kind of had a taste of that and saw that. Yeah, it's still so many questions. That's so cool that you were able to just go in for it. And 3:15 studying. So you just wake up super early and just study real estate because you really just wanted to, like, how did it feel when you tackled the first deal and you got it all, you know, the tenants are filled finally, the property manager like, yep, and you get those cash flow checks coming in and you're like, holy crap, it worked and I did it. Like, how did that feel?
Honestly, like, it felt really good for a couple of days. It just felt like a huge relief because I was like, okay, I did it. Like, don't have to stress about it anymore. But then I'm like, a couple of days later, like, after getting it under contract, I'm like, what's next? Like, I got to start preparing for this next thing. So, I mean, yeah, it was like, I don't know, like, sweet and salty because it was like a relief to get my first one under contract. But then I was just so concerned with the next one.
Really? That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like, so it wasn't a fluke where you're just trying to like do some catchy thing and like catch someone's eye. It was like, no, I want to do this for real. And that's kind of like what you felt the pressure to find the next one and like keep going.
Yeah. And then also, you know, that like saying that's like, you never really hear people who have like one or two investment properties, like they usually like either don't have any or they have a bunch. It's just because like
Right.
real estate's addicting. Like you just don't want to stop.
One, and yeah, that's a really good point. Where it's like, sometimes you just get one or two, you either bow out because it's just this weird headache that you don't fully understand, you haven't fully committed yourself to, and it's just like annoying. And so then you end up just selling those or whatever, making a few bucks, you know, or like say you get all in and then you see the compounding effect and how it can really take off. And you didn't want to be the person who just owned one or two and then bowed out. You wanted to like keep building.
Yeah.
That's cool. So how did the next one come down then? Was that kind of a similar story or what happened with the next purchase?
So I don't remember where I heard it, but I was listening to like a podcast or reading a book, and basically they were explaining how much money like a short-term rental could make compared to like a long-term rental. And I've always been like a huge, like, I only do long-term rental. I will never do anything else. But then like I just heard this and I was like, maybe I should like go for that because it made so much more cash flow from what I was used to. So my next venture was into short-term rentals. And basically I read Avery Carl's book, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. And that kind of had everything I needed to know needed to know to acquire one. So that's kind of how that took off.
That's cool. So you actually, for your second asset that you wanted to purchase, you actually started looking specifically for the short-term rental deal, as opposed to just long-term.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And how did you find that one? So how did you find that and how did you tackle that? Because I just think it's so interesting. Like, again, you're what, 16, 17 at this point?
Mm-hmm. 16.
How did that one go down?
Yeah, so basically after I read the book, I just kind of started doing what you needed to do. I found an agent in that market, started learning the numbers, figuring out like how to analyze short-term rentals, and like getting myself in like the Facebook groups, listening to the podcasts. And then basically I wasn't going to use my parents again for financing, so I had to find investors. And basically before I found a deal, I wanted to have investors in place because I was going to go the MLS route for this one. And like when things are on the MLS, you can't just wait. So,
Right.
And plus the market was super hot at this time. So it was like a couple days and like it's done. So
Yeah.
basically, for the investors, what I did was I put together this slide deck with a lot of the information from the book and just like what the numbers are going to look like and how like the deal would work. And after I had this slideshow together, I basically just pitched to a bunch of people at the RIA, private lenders I knew, potential partners like family members, friends. And I pitched to like about 20 people before I got one to say yes.
That's cool. So you're talking to friends, you're talking to family, people at the group. You said, private lenders that you knew. What kind of, how do you know private lenders? What kind of situation was that? Is that like friends and family?
Okay, so basically, personally, none of my friends and family besides like my parents have ever like lended to me. So like I don't think they would lend. So basically what I did was I asked people at the RIA, like my friends who I've made over that there, and I was like, okay, who's ever lended on your deals before? Or like who do you like? Or do you have any
Nice.
recommendations? So that's how I got the like lenders
Gotcha.
to
And then
talk
you
to.
just kind of showed them your like idea, like, hey, this is what we're planning on doing. This is what the numbers should look like. If we find a deal, are you willing to back it?
Hmm.
That's cool. So who ended up being the one that backed it, and how did you structure that deal?
Yeah, so it was a recommendation from someone from the RIA. And basically, how we structured it is my parents, they still went on, well, it technically, the deal is under an LLC, but my parents were the members of the LLC.
Hmm.
Now I'm the member because I'm 18 now.
Yeah.
So we are on the phone with my attorneys on my birthday. I was like, okay, let's switch
I was
this.
gonna say, I was kind of building up to that. I'm like, hey, if you're 18 now, how have you like shifted the ownerships and stuff? So you, on your 18th birthday, you were like setting up LLCs or putting you on the LLC.
Yep, we started the process. And it was also my attorney's birthday. So I'm like, so sorry, but like, I got to do this. So, but what were we talking about again?
Just so the Airbnb deal, the second deal, like you found, I just want to know how you got it funded and how
Oh,
that
the
got
partnership, yeah.
structured, how you structured
yeah.
the partnership.
So basically, what we did was it's kind of similar to the one we did before. So, but not. We basically took how it worked was there's like the down payment, closing cost, and repair cost. There's that huge lump sum of like upfront cost you have to pay when you buy a deal. So basically, the money partner, they funded all of that.
Okay.
And then me and Ben were the sweat equity partners, so we do all the work. So they funded that. We closed. And basically, during the closing period, we got everything set up. But essentially, you take that huge lump sum of all the upfront costs and like you split it in half. So the money partner, they've already paid their half. Basically, what we did with me and Ben's half is we used the profit from the rental to pay back our half. And technically, we could have only used the profit from the rental. But since I live at home and I don't have any expenses, like
Right.
I just used, so I have another business. We can talk about it later if you want. But I used my income from my business and then Ben's lawn care income. And like we have just been paying this thing off. And we got the rental 11 months ago and just using like some of our income and then the income we got from the short-term rental. The loan is our half is around like 66,000 and we have I think $9,000 left to pay. And so we should be able to pay that in the next month.
And that's what you're paying back to the private money lender, because they covered all of it, even though they're only obligated to cover half. And so you're paying them back for the other half.
Yeah. And then
that's what you're paying back.
Yeah. And then once it's just fully paid back, we'll just revert to splitting the profits 50-50.
Sure. And is there a long-term debt on it as well, or did they fund 100% of the purchase price and everything, or did you guys get a loan on it also?
So we got a loan. It was a 10% down loan, vacation home loan, second home loan. So the down payment was smaller, yeah.
And you used your parents again for that?
We used the investors. Oh wait, yeah. So for the loan, we technically used my parents. My parents. Yeah, cool. My parents are on the loan, but the investors, it's all their money.
Yeah, cool. So your parents helped qualify for the loan. The investor covered all the upfront money, and then you're doing a payback on your half, and then you're just back to another 50-50 deal like before. Mm-hmm. That's so cool. And did you come up with like how to structure that, or was that like the investor's idea? You're just kind of like, what do you want to do, or like how did that structure come to be?
So basically, there's like a similar structure in Avery's book, and then we kind of put our own little twist on it. So I guess it was just like kind of like seeing what she did and then adding a little bit of creativeness to it. And that's kind of how I came up with it.
That's so cool. I love that. And then it sounds like you did that another time as well. You got another short-term rental. You have two of those, is that right?
Oh, we just have the one.
Okay, so you have the one of those, and then the duplex in Milwaukee area. And is that the only ones you have right now?
Yes.
That's awesome. So that's really cool though. So that's before you even turned 18, I guess. You got the short-term rental, you got the long-term rental. You've learned a ton, made a ton of contacts. I'm sure people were pretty like excited to be able to help you, even though they might be a little like cautious. Like, do you know what you're doing? But at least me, if I saw someone with that kind of fire, I'd be like, dude, if I can justify backing and helping this girl, like I want to pull it off. Is that kind of the attitude of your private money lender, or was it just straight business?
No, that was definitely the attitude. And like a lot of the times, like being young, it either hurts you or helps you. But like
Sure.
most of the time, it's been like super helpful. Like the reason we got the first deal was because the seller just loved that we were so young and like had this drive, because it was an off-market deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of people might be scared if they're young to go in business because they're like, oh, no one will like trust me. But if you show like your drive and your initiative, then you're gonna be fine.
I
Of
love
course,
that.
there's some people like who are gonna like hate on the young
Sure.
people, but it's like very rare.
I love that concept. And I remember when I used to teach sales teams, I had this idea where it's like your greatest weakness is also your superpower. And it's like, let's say like you being 15 is like, for a lot of people, that is the number one excuse. You're like, well, cool, I'll study and start when I'm 18. Like that's like the greatest weakness you can have. Like you can't do it. No one will take you serious. You can't qualify for loans. You can't even have the property in your name. Like technically you didn't even own any property. You know what I mean? Like it's like that could have been the greatest weakness, but you're like, well, it can also be my superpower. It can be my greatest strength too. And I'll just leverage it. Like it's whatever you do with it. So that's cool. So when you turned 18, you actually got ownership, put your name on some LLC, started switching stuff into your name so that it was all officially under you. I'm sure that was an exciting time as well.
It was because like all the businesses me and Ben have, like they have never been ours, like technically. I mean, they're
Right.
ours, but they're not. So, but they're finally ours, and like, yeah, I'm excited.
So tell
It's
me about
really
your
nice.
businesses then. You said like you have a side business and he has some other businesses that help fund some of this. What kind of businesses are you running at 16, 17 years old?
Yeah, so for Ben, he has a lawn care and landscaping business, and you know how that's pretty self-explanatory.
Sure.
And then he's been doing that since he was like 13, just like he started doing his like neighbors, and now he has like quite a few like clients and stuff. And Ben graduated a semester early from high school, like literally a couple weeks ago. It's technically our
Nice.
senior year. And then I graduated after my junior year of high school. I graduated a year early. So
Cool.
I basically have all this time to work. And for my personal business, basically, since I was in the real estate space, I like knew it was really important to build up your personal brand on social media. So I started posting short form content on like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and that kind of thing. And I was able to build up my platforms, and I was like, oh, this is fun. So I want to help other people do this. So basically, I started a short form content editing and management agency. And that business, like, it's so funny because this business was able to get to 6 figures in annual revenue in 2 weeks because you know how like in real estate you have to like cold call hours in a day and like thousands of people before you get like a deal.
Yeah.
I just applied that marketing to a different business with like the same expectations as real estate. So when I did this super aggressive, crazy marketing, which I didn't know was aggressive, but it was just like what I was used to, the business exploded.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because like, of course, like it was like 1 in 100 people were saying yes if I was doing cold outreach, but I was so used to like talking to thousands of people before I even got like a maybe. So it was just, that's how like it was able to scale so fast, just because I'm really good at persistent cold outreach marketing.
So how are you finding, so you're reaching out to companies or you know, small, you know, independent people, whoever that want to build their brand basically. And you're like, hey, let me help do all the legwork to build it. How are you reaching out to these people? Just on Instagram and TikTok, just like messaging them, or you have like a call list, or how are you finding that lead source?
Yeah, so I reach out to small business owners or just people trying to build up their personal brand on Instagram, you know, or just social media in general. And basically I was doing a mixture of cold DM, cold email, and then cold calls. It just doesn't really work for this business because you usually want to talk to the CEOs and stuff. So I wasn't really doing cold calls, but I was just like filling out forms on websites and stuff I actually got shadow banned on Instagram because I DM'd too many people and thought I was spamming, which I
Sure.
get that. But yeah, so that's basically what I did.
That's awesome. And then you got enough response. Dude, it just goes to show us, like, if you put in the grind, like you'll get some response, and you got obviously a lot more than you were even expecting, it sounds like. But you knew how to put in the work and do the cold call. And, like I said, I knocked doors, and the same thing. It's just like you put in the hours, and there'll be people that need whatever service you're offering. And so you built that up and saw really good revenue right away. And it's, you probably don't have a huge overhead. Then it's just kind of your legwork, your time and energy, or do you have like other people you're hiring now to edit stuff?
Yeah, so I have about 7 people on my team, and it's mainly just editors. Yeah, so we have quite a few editors because like I could not take on the whole workload. Like that would probably be like a 200-hour week, which isn't even possible. But so we have a bunch of editors on our team, and I mean overhead isn't like crazy. Obviously, it's just kind of like labor you have to pay for. Yeah, but that's pretty much it.
That's cool. So did you, it's just so crazy. I love that, you've done that. How, you said you have like an attorney that helped you. Obviously you've got a business structure with this. Who kind of introduced you to like how to structure a business and set it up legally and like get in a position where you could do all that? Did you have any legwork on that or just Google and stuff?
Well, I already knew like you needed an LLC for your business, and I just on my own, like so basically I came up with a business idea, and then the same day I called my attorney and was like, okay, I need you to set up this LLC, and I need you to make a contract saying this, this, and this, that like I could have clients sign. Because the reason my business is like, okay, the reason I love real estate and like how I structure my business is because it's recurring income. So basically I have clients that I edit short form content for, and it's a monthly thing. It's like not like a one-time project or anything. It's like recurring monthly. So I wanted to get stuff in a contract that says like, okay, I'm doing this many shorts for you for this price, like every single month. So I had that drafted up as well. And basically that's pretty much like all the legal stuff I did. But I got that done. Cool. Like I ordered that the same day I came up with the business idea.
And how did you get in touch with this attorney? And how do you afford to pay for an attorney to write everything up?
Yeah, so this attorney was someone I found at my local RIA, and typically they don't do this kind of stuff, but they have like background in business. So I was just like, okay, these are simple enough. Like his contract is like 2 pages, and then obviously LLCs he drafts up all the time. So, but this is the same attorney I used in real estate, and then like to pay for it, it's just Cashflow and couch flipping. Because me and Ben never stopped couch flipping. We just like are obsessed.
I love it. Hey, profit margin on furniture. It's there. It's a real thing, that's so cool. Like it's honestly inspiring, Ava, to like, and I know I'm asking like a lot of detailed questions, like, well, how did you do this? How do you do that? Cause it's just like, I know that's what people will be thinking. It's like, how is that even possible? And it's like, guess what? It's the same thing, whether you're 15 or 50. Yep. Right. It's like, yeah, you learn the basics of how it works, whether through the podcast, the books. Sounds like you signed up for some courses. Like it's not rocket science. You learn how to do it. And then you just got to reach out to people and you're like, hey, like network. They say, who do you know that can provide money? Who do you know that's an attorney? Who do you know? Like, because I assume, and you probably get this all the time, so I apologize. And people are probably like, oh yeah, she's 15 doing real estate, like mommy and daddy did everything and put her face on it so it would be cool and trendy, and then just gave her some like taglines of what to say. And it's like, that's not the case at all. You just did what everybody else would do, whether they were 25, 35, 45, or 55. You just did the work.
In fact, continue. I was just gonna say, people say like mommy and daddy's money all the time. It's hilarious.
Yeah. And what do you think about that when people are like, oh, well, you're just kind of the face, and like, I bet your parents did everything. Like, yeah, they have an attorney and they're rich and they connect you with everything. You just like show up and they did everything. Like, what does that make you think or feel when you hear that kind of stuff?
It used to make me like kind of like upset and like frustrated and sad, but like over time, just because I've been doing social media for a while now, like I get it every day. So I just have kind of learned to just like block it out and be like, they don't even know like a fourth of like about me. So it's just like, I can't really get upset about it.
That's good. And the truth is like, you should be stoked on every time you hear it. Cause what people are really saying is what you're doing is so unbelievable. I don't believe it.
I've never put it about like, I have never thought about it like that. That is such a good way to think about it.
Yeah, you really should, because that's really what it is. It's so unbelievable. People don't believe it. And you're like, so just hear that first part, like, yeah, like, thanks. You know what I mean? Every hater, everybody that doubts, it's like, I know, it's pretty cool, isn't it? You know? So you can take that to the bank. Well, that's really cool. I think it's inspiring what you're doing. It's cool that you're doing it on multiple ways too. It's like, it does take money to fund real estate, even if it's not a ton, even if you're bringing in private money. It's like say sometimes you need money to pay for an attorney or a contract or a close or just these small things, not to mention, you know, even paying back the stuff, like all these little things. So it's cool that you found a way to provide capital through your business, but also do the legwork to build real estate. And obviously that's the best marriage of business there is. And that's what, you know, Robert Kiyosaki, shout out to, you know, Rich Dad Poor Dad, you're like, he says, you know, the reason to own a business is so you can buy real estate. You know, because real estate is where you can grow and hold all your wealth, you know, because there's people who own businesses and they don't know what to do with that money and they blow it. And then when the economy shifts or the business shifts, it's like they have nothing to show for it. But if you keep buying real estate, you're always going to have something to show for it. So anyway, we could go on forever. I do want to kind of lead out to some of our final end-out questions, but I do want to know, Ava, like, what's your goals? What's kind of next? You know, you can talk big picture or you can talk just kind of like step 2, like what's, you know, coming around the corner, however you want to look at it. But what's kind of next for you?
Yeah, so obviously just continue growing like Personal Brand Launch, which is my social media agency. But the next like big thing I guess I'm doing is like all my businesses are going to be part of it technically, which you'll know what I mean in a second. But basically what I'm doing is I'm shifting, because I know I did another course and I don't know, this is just what I want to do for like the rest of my life, which is like obviously buy real estate, but mainly like I want to buy businesses and like have a holding company where all my businesses are kind of under that in LLCs. So, yeah, that's kind of the next step, just buying businesses, whether they're like home service-based businesses or like, I don't know, some like online business, but that's kind of the next step for me. And basically through like my businesses that I have right now, I'm just trying to stockpile cash and like finish paying off my half of the STR. So then I can just really focus on like having it just be my own money for once instead of borrowing. Sure. And like using creative financing to buy these businesses.
That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah. And if you keep doing all of it, you know what I mean? It's like, you're going to be set. You know what I mean? You build these businesses, you use that money, keep building the real estate portfolio, never get distracted from that. Like we all look back like, oh, if I just kept doing a few more, you know what I mean? It's like,
the goal though is like, I want to buy like bigger apartments, like long-term rental apartments. Because don't get me wrong, I love the short-term rentals, but I feel like for the long term, I think like just big apartments, like just long term, are probably going to be my best bet.
That's awesome. Well, that's super exciting, Ava. We're excited to continue to follow your story and see everything. So we do, I want to go out with we have our final 4 questions we always ask everybody. Before we dive into that though, what is a way people can, you know, cheer you on, follow your journey, see and get access to your business options that you offer people and everything like that?
Yeah, you can just go to my Instagram, TikTok, which is Ava Jurgens. And then also my YouTube channel is Ben and Ava. And basically on my Instagram, there's like my email. You can DM me. That's basically the best way to contact me.
So just Ava Jurgens, and that's AVAYUERGENS. Just Ava Jurgens on most of the, and then YouTube, you said it was Ben and Ava?
Yeah, BEN and AVA.
There we go. Well, check it out, everybody. I look forward to following your journey. And you know, yeah, you kind of set a little name for yourself, put a little pressure on yourself. So it's like, you got to deliver. You're always the girl that started real estate at 15. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, I like that. Give yourself some expectations though. Give yourself some high standards because you've done it. So, awesome. Was there anything else you want to add in or thoughts you want to share before we go into our final 4?
I don't really know if I have any words of wisdom. Like, I guess just, I think the only reason like I'm quote unquote successful or whatever is because I just did it. I say like, instead of like just dwelling on anything, just do it and you'll be fine.
I love it. All right. Well, sweet. Well, we'll rock into our final 4. So first question is, Ava, what is a non-real estate related bucket list item you've recently checked off or you're excited to check off next?
Probably buying my first business.
There we go. All right. You like feel that fire. You got the property. Now you can just put that on autopilot, and now you want to get your first business. That's cool.
Yes.
All right. Sweet. Question number 2. What book are you currently reading?
Oh, I'm reading the best book. Okay. I have been in a reading slump with like nonfiction books, and they've all kind of sucked the past couple of months, but I've found the best book ever that you guys need to read. I think it's 50 Scientific Ways to Get a Yes. It's like a sales book, a persuasion book by Robert Cialdini. And it's just one of the best books I've ever read, because basically it gives you like a persuasion hack, a real life example, and then repeats the persuasion hack. So it's like not complicated, and it's probably the best book I've ever read.
I love it. What's it called again? 50?
I think it's 50 Scientific Ways to Get People to Say Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely want to check that out. That sounds cool. It's always good when you get an exciting book. Because like I say, I've poured through a lot of books sometimes. Sometimes, yeah, you hit these slumps. You're like, that book was That book was
It's like, I heard that before. One. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because so much of it is like, where you're at, in life and what you're looking to do next. Where it's like, obviously this persuasion one's like really big for you right now. So that's cool.
Oh, it's so
awesome.
Good.
I love it. I want to check that one out. All right. Question number 3, Ava. What content or book or podcast or YouTube or course or channel or whatever, anything that besides what we're, associated with, what would you recommend people check out?
It's probably really basic, but Alex Hormozi, very good. Yes. I love his content, and like he's just really business oriented, and he's actually the person who like talked about that book, so that's why I got it. And I don't know, he's just a really smart guy.
He is. It's interesting how a lot of people, there's a lot of content obviously out there. A lot of people say a lot of stuff, and some of it's just regurgitated, but some of it is like kind of applicable, but not quite on point. But what I like about Alex is the things he says are what I call like principles. Like these are like overarching eternal principles that like, it doesn't matter if it was 100 years ago or 100 years from the future, if you're a 15-year-old girl or a 37-year-old guy, like these basic principles are applicable. It's not situational to just like, oh, well, if you're in Wisconsin, then you can do this one thing and it works. Yeah. But it doesn't work for anybody else. His stuff is just like a powerhouse, true principle. And I've really enjoyed watching his stuff. Yeah. Check out Alex Hormozi. He's got some dope stuff. All right, cool. Well, we'll let you go after this last one, but, if you could send a message or a TikTok or an Instagram or whatever to the world, what would your message to the world be?
My message to the world would be probably kind of similar to what I said before, like just do it, I guess, Nike, but literally just don't dwell on it. Just take action and do it.
I love it. I love it. Well, sweet. Well, this is super exciting, Ava. Thank you so much for being on the show and spending your time with us. I'm sure everybody will be as inspired as I am to hear your story. It definitely makes you like, I could probably step my game up. So I love that you're doing it. 3:15. I better start waking up earlier to catch up with you. So without any further ado, this is Joe Jensen signing off for the Real Estate Investing School podcast, reminding you that it's never too young to start.